I grew up on grapes. Every day, I carried a brown paper bag lunch to school. It had a banana in it, a stack of Pringles potato chips, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and to top the lunch off, a mini Snickers bar. Every day. The jelly on my sandwich? Grape. Sometimes to add variety in the fall, the banana was substituted with an apple, but not the jelly. Grape. Purple grape jelly. I think it's fair to say that during my elementary school years, I ate my fair share of grapes. But you know what? I didn't eat grapes. I would go so far as to say I didn't like grapes. Never munched on a bunch. Grape juice, I loved it. But a handful of grapes, not in these hands. In a little kid's mind, there was no connection to those little things rolling around in the bottom of the drawer in the refrigerator and my favorite sandwich. Then came marriage. After being married about a month, one weekend I entrusted my wife with a very important job. Bring snacks for our 5-hour road trip to visit my family. And we had a new mini cooler, and I heard Joanne putting ice into the cooler, and I shouted from the stairs, "Pepsi, please!" And then I made another trip out to pack up the car. A couple hours later, into the middle of farm country, it was time. And I asked somewhat excitedly, "What did you pack?" And she opened the cooler and handed me some cheese. And then she put a bunch of grapes into my hands that were still connected to the stem. I don't eat these. And I handed them back to her with one hand on the steering wheel. "What do you mean you don't eat those? You make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all the time. Just try one." No, I put another piece of cheese in my mouth, and then she plucked one grape off and stuck it in my mouth. And wouldn't you know it, it was delicious. 22 years old, and I had never eaten one. And now I wanted more. Fruit. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Jesus said, "I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit that will last. Not just a little taste of grapes, not just jelly, but the whole grape. And not just one, it's plural. Jesus says we've been chosen, we've been appointed to bear fruit. And if we're attached to the vine, then we will bear much fruit. I love the grand vision, the idea that we're in a living relationship with the Lord who intends for us to impact the world. But I wonder how we're supposed to go about doing the job. What role can I play? What role can you? Can you and I really be difference makers in the world? But before we get ahead of ourselves, a little bit of vineyard background for city folk. Without the vine, the branch can do nothing. Branches need the vine to nourish it. And Jesus is telling us that we need to be connected to the vine so that we produce fruit. But there's a flip side as well. I discovered that in the fruit-bearing process, without the branch, the vine also can do nothing. A vine without branches can bear no fruit. No less indispensable than the vine to the branches is the branch to the vine. And that's the wonderful grace of Jesus, that just as his people are dependent on him, he has made himself dependent on them. Without his disciples, he can't dispense his blessing to the world. Really? Yeah, really. That's why before he ascended to heaven, Jesus gave the Great Commission to his followers. Go make disciples of all people, all nations. And what that means is without the disciples, without us, God cannot provide good things for people. That's astounding. God could have chosen to work around us, but he didn't. He chose to work in us and through us to bless other people. God chose us, his image bearers, if you will, to reflect his love and be the channel through which his power is made known in our world. That's why you and I need to be a huge branch of grapes, dripping with goodness, attached inseparably to the vine. Well, let's read what he says. I am the vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me, as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. It gets really interesting because there's a tendency to think, oh, I see, there's something that's required of me. I have to do something. I have to believe harder. I have to be more faithful, be more dedicated to serving God in order to be valuable. Being a Christian is not about being good, but realizing we're not good after all, and that we need a Savior. Remember Moses? He freed Israel from slavery. He led the people out of Egypt and parted the Red Sea for them to cross. Well, did you know that before he became mighty, before he stood up to Pharaoh and God worked through him to perform miracles, he was just a regular guy? He led a quiet life and tended to his father-in-law's sheep. Not very glamorous. So why did God choose Moses to do such incredible things? Why did God make him into one of the greatest heroes in the Bible? Well, the answer is simple. God called and Moses answered. God had his eye on Moses for a long, long time. He grew up in the palace in Egypt, but after making a major mistake, to put it lightly, Moses ran to the desert where he led a lonely life. And that was the time of God's pruning and growing, the chance to get close to God, to discover God's undeserved love for people who don't have it all together, for sinners. And finally, after many years, God knew it was time to use Moses to do mighty things, but he got scared. Who am I? I've been on the run. I killed someone. And I can't even speak. How can I possibly bring the children of Israel out of Egypt where if I go there, they'll lock me up for being a criminal? And here's the key. God said, I will be with you, and this will be a sign to you that it is I who have sent you. It was God's promise that he would stay with Moses the whole time. And so Moses went off to do the impossible, connected to the vine. But then Moses got worried. What if the people don't believe me? What will I say? Who will I tell them has sent me? Who should I tell them you are? That's where the I am significance is seen. And as we wrap up with the last I am statement this week, we come full circle back to Moses. God told Moses to say to the people, I am has sent you. And today, Jesus reveals that connection. And he says, I am the vine. God created you with a longing to live life full of purpose and impact. He's put desires in your heart that he wants to satisfy in some pretty above and beyond ways. Imagine your life as a fruitful branch connected to the vine, a union with Christ. Rest secure in God's presence today, knowing that you are extravagantly loved. Let's read a little bit more here. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourself to be my disciples. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, and so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. Abide in me, remain in me. He's the one who's going to bear much fruit. God, all I care about is that I want my life to count. Okay, abide in me. I try. Well, stop trying on your own. That isn't what Jesus is asking of you. He's inviting. Even stronger, he's commanding us to remain in him, to stay close to him, learning to be in his presence and to know him, to watch him. To remain means to abide. It's to stay closely connected. And with that kind of a picture, Jesus is showing the disciples how an ongoing vital connection with him will directly determine the amount of his power at work in their lives. What do you think about that? His power at work in you. And I'll tell you, it's way more than the difference between a PB&J sandwich and grapes. It's huge basketfuls bearing fruit. Well, within 6 verses in John 15, Jesus says, remain or abide 11 times. Can you sense the passion in his repetition? Jesus knows that he's about to leave his friends, and yet he's saying, we must be together. He knows that in the coming years, those disciples that were with him will be called to produce an unheard of, miraculous amount of fruit, enough fruit to turn the whole world upside down. And he hasn't stopped working in our communities among all nations yet. And so we're invited to be connected to the vine. You didn't choose me, but I chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruit that will last. He initiates. Remain in me, he says, and experience my power. Abide in me, and you will see amazing things happen through you. Remember, Moses didn't have a strategy. Moses just knew God. He couldn't speak. He got upset with God's people. God gave his commandments to Moses up on the mountain. And when Moses came down from the mountain, he said, wow, I've been with God. And after remaining in God's presence, Moses bore abundant fruit. Like Moses, go up to the mountain and be alone with God. Your relationship must be between you and God, where you know you're attached to him. It's possible for Christians to be busy doing great things for others, but Jesus warned his disciples at the last day, he may need to say, I never knew you. But we served others in your name. We were busy at church. Jesus said it clearly. Without me, you can do nothing. Don't let that happen. Remain in him. So, what's the action step today? Live with Jesus. That's it. It isn't hard. It isn't new. God's at work everywhere. Join him. And here's where it gets great. He wants to give you power. Jesus promised you will be given whatever you ask in prayer. That's a promise of power for those who remain in him. And even if you fail at remaining with Jesus, he'll never stop being your best friend. He'll always be there for you, ready to welcome you back into his amazing love. His desire is not that you will do more for him, but that you will choose to be with him more. And only by abiding, only by remaining in him will you enjoy the most rewarding friendship and experience the greatest joy.
I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers. And the branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, Ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love.
We've covered each of Jesus' 7 I am statements over the last 7 weeks. Hold on to his last. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing.
Standing here in your presence, in a grace so relentless, I am won by perfect love, wrapped within the arms of heaven, in a peace that lasts forever, sinking deep in mercy. See, I'm wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. All fear removed, I breathe you in, I lean into your love. Oh, your love. When I'm lost, you pursue me. Lift my head to see your glory, Lord of all. So beautiful. Here in you I find shelter, captivated by the splendor of your face. My secret place, I'm wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. All fear removed, I breathe you in, I lean into your love. Oh, your love. Your love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I seek. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry, to know you all my life. Your love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I seek. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry, to know you all my life. Your love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all